Welcome back. I'm Majid and this is Financial Crime Awareness Hub. Today's video is different. We're not going to discuss exam questions, no predicate offense. This one is a skills video and it covers something that every compliance professional does, but mostly, plus minus there are variations. Someone is doing it detailed, someone is putting it on a higher level. So we are trying to, streamline things, which will, I hope, be beneficial for all the listeners and all the people, those who are watching that. So this is the thing, like how to create a suspicious activity report or STR, how to draft the narrative that actually gets investigated. You will file hundreds of these in your career. Most of them will sit in a queue and never be read properly. So this video is about making sure you are not in a pile. So that's the key objective, and I hope I'll explain things very clearly, and let's dive into that. Alright, so I want you to picture this. Imagine a compliance analyst spots an account with 12 cash deposits, each under the local reporting thresholds made over 3 weeks. She files a report. The narrative says customer made multiple cash deposits, and it's suspicious, so recommend review. 6 months later, investigators reopen the case. The same account had wire transfers to a company linked to a separate trafficking investigations. Her report had been sitting in a queue of 1,000 other STRs, unopened the entire time. 3 questions here that we need to look for. What made the report easy to skip? What should have been in it instead? Would an investigator have acted on it faster, or if it had been written differently? Alright, just hold these questions. We're gonna go and discuss to the best possible in our next slides. Alright, so before we get into how to write, you need to understand why the narrative matters more than anything else in the report. As per the FATF Recommendation 20, which requires countries to mandate that FIU financial institutions report suspicious transactions to FIUs, and either any equivalent term you call it, whether SAR or STR. In most jurisdictions we use the term STR. In US they call it SAR. So the key thing that is that the first step is the legal obligation that you have to file one. So here's the reality. I would say in compliance training, maybe sometimes we don't discuss too much deep down details. Here the objective is to go deep down as much as possible and how to write an STR. So the first thing is that FIUs worldwide receive an enormous volume of the reports every year, reviewed by comparatively small teams of investigators. Triage happen first. Second, investigators do not reward efforts, they reward clarity. A report that explains itself in seconds gets escalated. One that needs decoding gets queued. It's simple, right? When you're writing an email to someone, if your first line or first paragraph is not clear, you may find it that the person did not read the email, or maybe the answer is delayed. So similarly here, also if your STRs are well written, that's where these are getting checked by FIUs. And here's the most important thing I want you to take from this slide. The narrative is not paperwork attached to your decision. It's only the part of your decision that an investigator sees. Let's see now in the next slide further details for that. So now the most important thing, the 5 W's plus how. So every good SAR or STR narrative is built on same skeleton. And this skeleton is exactly what was missing from the old reports, what we saw a moment ago. The 5 W's plus how, like who, what, when, where, why, and how. At minimum, a usable narrative identifies who is involved, what happened, when it happened, where the activity occurred, and how it was carried out, in enough details that an investigator with no other context could act on it. Let us break it down as much as possible. So first thing here, just a second. So first thing, who and what, the subject, the accounts involved, the relationships between parties, and a precise description of the activity itself. Not a category, not suspicious transaction, a description what actually happened. The next thing is when and where. specific dates, specific date ranges, transaction channels, branches, jurisdiction. Vague time frames like recently or over the past few months force investigators to ask questions your narrative should have already answered. Next, how and why it is flagged. So the mechanism used and the red flag or typology it maps to: structuring, layering, trade-based money laundering, name it, and explain why this activity does not fit customers' expected profile. Let's see further details in the next slide now. Two habits separate a report that gets action from one that gets shelved. First, always write it in chronological order. Tell the story in the order it happened, not the order you discovered. The reader should be able to follow the money from the start to finish without flipping back and forth. If they have to reconstruct the timeline themselves, you have already lost them. Second, quantify everything, not several large deposits. That tells an investigator nothing that they can search on. Specifically, let's say you say 94,300 USD across 12 deposits between 3rd and 21st March tells them everything. Exact amounts, exact dates, exact account number, exact frequency. And as a test, I want you to apply to every narrative you wrote you write from today onwards. Take your narrative and remove every number, every name, every date, every account reference. Now read what it is left with. If nothing specific remains, what you have written is not a narrative, it is a summary. A summary actually describes your conclusion. A narrative describes what happened. An investigator can only act on the second one. Now let's see the same case that we discussed earlier. We are trying to kind of rewrite. So let me show you exactly what's the difference looks like using the case from the beginning. Okay, the weak version said customer made multiple suspicious cash deposits. You recommend review. All right, no numbers, no dates, no account reference, nothing here can be searched, verified, or escalated. Now here's the same case rewritten properly. So between 3rd and 21st March, the subject made 12 cash deposits totaling $94,300 into account ending 4821, each between 8,700 and 8,950, consistently below 10,000 reporting threshold. That is quantified structuring. The investigators immediately recognize the patterns. Nothing to decode here. Then the next sentence: within 24 to 48 hours of each deposit, funds were transferred to a company with no prior transaction history with the subject, consistent with rapid layering through trade-based channels. That is typology linked, no speculations here. The writer actually in a way described the activity and named the pattern. They did not say the customer is laundering money. That is a conclusion. Okay, the writer gave the investigator the fact to reach that conclusion themselves. Look, so two sentences, everything an investigator needs to triage this report in seconds instead of queuing it for a month. Now let's look at some of the mistakes, I would say 6 mistakes precisely, that push a perfectly usable narrative to the bottom of the queue. Okay. First one, vague language. So saying suspicious activity observed, unusual transactions noted, activity inconsistent with profile. These phrases describe nothing. Replace every adjective with a fact an investigator could verify. Legal conclusions. The customer is laundering money is a conclusion, not an observation. Describe the activity, let the investigator draw the conclusion. Your job is to raise an alert or a red alert or red flag, not prosecute the case. Missing quantification, so no amounts, no dates, no account numbers. An unquantified narrative cannot be searched or prioritized. It is invisible. Facts out of order. Scattered details force the reader to reconstruct the timelines themselves. This is exactly the work your narrative should have done for them. Copy-paste templates. Recycled language across unrelated cases is one of the easiest patterns for a reviewing analyst or a regulator to spot. It signals, that the writer did not actually review the case. It signals minimum efforts. Okay. Last, which is sixth one, burying the lead. The single most important red flag belongs in the first two sentences. As we said, like when you're writing an email, your first line should describe what you need from the reader. Okay, so not paragraph 4, not the conclusion. The first two sentences should tell the whole thing. So investigators, they just directly skim through. If the hook is not at the top, the report does not get read. So before we wrap up, one more thing I need you to understand, because it changes how you think about everything in this video. So most financial intelligence units operate with a small fraction of the analyst needed to review every report in full and in details. That is not a flaw in the system. That is the reality every compliance professional is writing into. So here's a question I want you to hold before we move to the summary. If you were the investigator skimming hundreds of these in a single shift, what would make you stop and read one all the way through, right? Just take a second, think of it, okay? So what actually decides? I would say it is the first two sentences, as we also described in our previous slide. If they are specific, quantified, and typology linked, the report gets read in full. If they are vague, it gets queued behind one that is not even there, probably gonna be read a couple of months. Okay, so this is the entire skill in one sentence. You should precisely say what had happened with all the W's and how. Okay. So the writing rule for STR narrative is this: be specific. Short, quantified, chronological narrative outperforms a long, vague one every time. 4 things to remember. Number 1, the 5 W's plus how. So who, what, when, where, why, and how. Answered before you asked. Map the activity to a named typology. Never name a category without a description behind it. Quantify everything. Exact amount, exact dates, account numbers, frequency, chronological order, start to finish. Remove every vague qualifier you can find. Avoid these things: language, jargon, recycled phrasing, legal conclusions, descriptions that as if like you are concluding. Okay, that's not your job. You are reporting only. That's their job. And never bury the key red flag past paragraph 1. Okay, know the standard. FATF recommendation 20 is the global reporting duty. So SAR in the US, STR elsewhere, same purpose, same standard. Your narrative is the only part of your decision that makes investigators ever see. So make it count. Last but not least, we are done with this. Our next video will be on human trafficking, most likely. Hopefully we will not change in the plan. Here also I thought to come up with this thing, because this is always people, they struggle for writing STRs and all. What I'm gonna do now, I'm gonna leave one link in the description, which leads to a complete detailed STR document which tells you how to structure the report and all. So feel free to access that, and if there is an access required on the Google Drive, I'll surely approve it for you. Thank you so much one more time. And in case if you wish to opt for the Advice Cube notes for the CAMS exam preparation or e-learning course that has a bot trained on CAMS, or you need the practice questions, please feel free to reach out via our email address, which is info@advicecubeconsulting.com, or the mobile number given in the footer of the slides, that's on the WhatsApp. Feel free to reach out. Thank you so much for your time.